Hey kawan, welcome to EDCReady. I'm your host Mr. EDC, and today we're going to do a full review of the Spyderco Dragonfly 2. So Spyderco is an American knife company, and this particular model of theirs is made in Seki City, Japan, which if I'm wrong, I will put it in the comments down below, but I'm almost certain that it's made in Japan. So quick background about this knife. This knife is the Dragonfly 2. The difference between this and the first generation Dragonfly 1 is that there is not jimping over here, and that is, to my understanding, what the difference is between the old Dragonfly and the Dragonfly 2. And before I continue, let's just take some quick measurements. I have here my weighing scale. And while I'm setting this up, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to my new patrons, which at this moment I don't have any. So in the meantime, if you have a little bit extra cash at the end of the month, you want to help support the channel, help me bring better content and bring better gear to the channel, just go on to the description box down below and have a look at my Patreon account. There's certain benefits for being my patron, such as when I sell knives online, I sell it on Patreon, and then you can also get a discount. So this is a very compact knife, right? It's really small. Like, I can't explain to you how small it is without measuring it. So let's start with the weight. It weighs in at 34 grams, which converted to American is 1.2 ounces. Super light. 34 grams, 1.2 ounces. Really light. Okay, so now let's take some key measurements right here. The blade length, the total blade length is, okay, if I can adjust it here, around 2.3 inches with a cutting edge of 1.9 inches. The overall length is, we have here 5.6 inches. The handle itself is 3.35 inches, and the amount of grip, the amount of effective grip length you have, which I'm going to include the choil here, all the way to the end here, is 3.73 inches. Now, another thing that's very important to us knife enthusiasts is the thickness of the stock. This is an extremely thin stock knife at 0.9 inches, or converting it, 2.4 millimeters, extremely thin. Sorry, I didn't convert the earlier units, but you can just Google the differences. And another thing is that the whole knife is actually the thinnest knife I have right now, at 8.6 millimeters or 0.34 inches. So super thin knife. Okay, but another thing you need to remember about Spyderco is because of the spider hole, it feels like it feels oddly like wide. Okay, so the width of this knife is running at the maximum width here, 1.33 inches. So definitely a wide knife. I mean, it's pretty wide. You can feel it in the pocket, because as I'm putting this in my pocket, it feels really light. It feels like you're not gonna feel it at all. But once you start rubbing things, along the pocket, okay, you're gonna feel like it gets in the way a little bit, especially when you want to put it into the pocket. This jimping here gets caught up in the corner of your pocket. But enough about that. Let's talk about the knife. Let's do the full review. So first of all, an overview of the knife. The knife is extremely ergonomic. Okay, I can tell, to me, what's an ergonomic knife is that when you pick it up and you put it in your hand, it automatically falls into a few different positions automatically. So I'll talk more about that as we get into the handles. Now let's talk about the blade. So as usual, I'm going to start from tip to butt, and yeah, this is my typical format. Starting with the blade here. So the blade here is VG10. It is a budget steel nowadays, but it's a little bit higher in the budget steel echelon. Alright, it is slightly higher than things like D2, then 440C, then 14C28N. So definitely a budget steel, but it is a little bit higher. In my opinion, it has the average of all those steel. It's not as wear resistant as D2, but it is more corrosion resistant than D2. However, I don't think it's as corrosion resistant as something like 440C. I'm not so sure. It hasn't rusted on me yet, so all is good. And at the same time, it is hard, but it is not the hardest of all the budget steels such as D2. Now let's talk about the shape. The blade is, as you know, it's extremely thin. So this is the best slicing blade I have. I've cut some foam around the house to kind of create like a little playground for my daughter, and it is just so slim and just slices so well. I love that about this blade. Couple that with a really thin stock and then a full flat grind, this gets to really thin edge, like super thin, and it just cuts through things really easily. Now, with that being said, so yeah, it has a bit of a swedge up here, which brings it to a very nice needle point. So this is a great knife if you wanna penetrate through something and then slice it open. Very sharp needle point here, which I love. One thing I don't like about it is that number one, this kind of this cutting shape right here doesn't have a finger choil, which I do appreciate the finger choil. If I ever do any kind of sharpening, this lack of a finger choil would mean that the knife will actually start to recurve a little bit, as when you rub the stones up on this, you actually start eating away in this center here, and then this center bit here will retract back. Okay, but other than that, the cutting edge is really nice and really thin and really slicey, and I love that. Now, I'm guessing the best way to sharpen this is using the Spyderco knife sharp maker, because it has a rod that's standing like that instead of a flat stone that you just grind off like that. You kind of strike downwards, so this thing is not that much of a problem. Okay, so that's that. Another thing, the spidey hole. I love the spidey hole. This is my first knife with the spidey hole, and I love it. It's so easy to, using your thumb, just open it like that, or if you want to finger flick it as well, like that, it works too. So I just love this spidey hole mechanism. It's kind of why I'm kind of like crushing on the Benchmade mini grip with the opening hole as well, for that same reason. Unfortunately, the hole here is really like sharp. Like, it has on many occasions taken off a nail. Okay, so sometimes I would flip and then a bit of nail would scratch up or fall off. So it's like really sharp, especially this portion right here. This portion here, this little corner here, it can be really sharp, and if you catch it at the wrong angle, it can actually I've never cut myself, but it'll definitely take some fingernail off. So right after this review, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some sandpaper, or maybe a stone of some sort. I'm not sure what I'm going to use, but I'll Google what to use later, and just like buff out the edges a little bit, just to round off the edges a little bit. So that, yeah, so that's why I love the hole, but the holes are just a little bit too sharp. Okay, so moving back on the knife, we have the jimping up here. Now the jimping here, oh sorry, before that, another thing I don't like about the opening hole is that it makes this knife really wide. Like, for a short knife, you expect it to be like this small, but it ends up being an extra maybe a third to a half an inch taller than what you expect from a smaller knife. So I think that's just that's just the life of a spidey hole right here. Sometimes that will get in the way if you have small pockets, or you have a huge phone or a big wallet. But if you like the opening hole and you don't mind the extra height, it's fine. As for me, I've learned to live with it. It was annoying at first, especially this part right here. When you go and put it into your pocket, it will actually catch up on your pocket right here. Okay, this will go in and you'll catch pocket. And because the jimping is a little bit sharp, it can almost eat away at the corners of your pants. So speaking about that, moving on to here, the jimping here is great. I like the jimping. The jimping is very comfortable. It gives a lot of good grip. But it is not as sharp as, let's say, my QSP Deva, which I reviewed, which you can check out in the link in the description down below. It's not as sharp, but it definitely gives a lot of good grip. It's like a nice medium between sharp and not so sharp. Corners here are a little bit sharp though. The center is fine, but the corners here are just a little bit sharp. My thumb got used to it, but if that bothers you, you can just take like some really coarse sandpaper and just buff out the corners right there. Moving on, this knife has a really nice finger choil. I love this finger choil. This finger choil is just a great place to put your finger here, and then you get so much control. And then you also put a bit of jimping here. It's the same jimping up top, so it can get a little bit rough on the edges right here, but at the same time it gives you so much grip that I just love it. Now, one thing that kind of like irks me a little bit, and this is very nitpicky, is that, check out this part right here. This part right here, smooth transition. This part right here, smooth transition between the blade and the FRN handles. But when you close it right, you get this little bit, just a tiny bit of a hump. I don't know why. That's like always stood out to me, and kind of, I've always felt like it was a bit annoying. I felt like I would just want to like buff it down a little bit, but at the same time, if I do that, then this goes out of alignment. So yeah, just a heads up. I don't know why. It doesn't affect the function of the knife whatsoever, but it just irks me a little bit. Now moving back a little bit, let's move to the pivot. The pivot's fine. All the pivots here and here are, I think here as well, are D-shaped pivots. Okay. If you want to know more about the disassembly of the knife, you can check out the disassembly video in the description box down below. It's a D-shaped pivot, which means that it is not free spinning. So normally, if it's a free spinning pivot, you need to put one Torx bit here and then same Torx bit here and hold one side as you unscrew. This one, no problem at all. Just put a screw here, just put a Torx bit here and unscrew it and take it out, and it's fine. And it's great that you only need to unscrew from one side, because the other side is completely there's no place to put a tool, which is fine. Which is why it has to be a non-free spinning pivot. It just takes half the time to unscrew and take everything out, which is great. I love that. Now the only place that you do have screws on both sides is the pocket clip. That's because you need to go back and forth. Oh, that's because you can switch it from left and right carry, which is great. Now moving on to the handle. Now I just want to talk about the ergonomics, which I've mentioned in the early part of the video. A great knife with great ergonomics, you know it has great ergonomics just by grabbing it, and then your fingers automatically fall into a position. So that automatically falling into position is a sign that it's designed to be held in a certain way, and I love that. So with this knife, you actually have, with regards to the handle and the blade shape, you actually have two fantastic, very comfortable grips. The first one is you use your bottom three fingers to grip it like that, and then you just pinch it forward like here, and this gives it a lot of control. Okay, this knife is definitely not a hard use knife. It's meant for short slicing. It's meant for very light tasks, but more than anything, it's meant for really delicate or really intricate work. Okay, this is not a knife that you just like cut, because it's gonna catch your hand because the blade is so short. This is a knife that you go in and then you twist a little bit and you do one of these things. So this is the first very comfortable grip for me. Now you have the two fingers in here, and then you have the pinky that goes and rests against the back here. Adds a little bit of forward pressure as well, which is great for punching and piercing into things. The next position that's really comfortable is you put your two fingers here, you pinch it like this with your middle finger and your thumb, and then you pinch it like you put your middle finger in this finger choil here, and then you just pinch the blade like this. It doesn't look like it at first, but this is an extremely comfortable grip, especially when you do some really detailed work and you really want to work with that tip. This position gives great tip control, and you can get your finger all the way down to the tip. I have relatively small hands, so it doesn't go all the way to the edge, but for someone with slightly longer fingers, you can really get all the way to the tip. I don't know why you want to do that, but it can be a little bit dangerous. You can slip off, but it's just really comfortable. So this is my favorite grip when it comes to having to do any kind of piercing into packaging, but I don't want to go deep in case I don't want to like cut or destroy anything inside the cardboard box. I just hold this, use this as like a little barrier, poke this into the cardboard, and then just pull from there, and then you only get this tip in. But other than that, this position is great too. Great for punching, great for short slicing, just really great ergonomics. Okay, moving back. So yeah, the pivot, it's not, a lot of people say that these back locks are the strongest locking mechanism, especially if you go to Blade HQ. So Blade HQ did this kind of test of different types of locks. You had your liner locks, your frame locks, your not an axis lock. They didn't test an axis lock. Your, what is that lock on the PM2 on the Para 3? Yeah, you know what I mean. So they tested all these locks, and they found out that the back lock is the strongest lock. They tested it on the Delica, and then this uses the same type of locking mechanism. How it works is that you have this bar here, and then this little spring bar right here, and this bar is pretty much an L shape. So it goes in and then it goes down, and then the blade itself, there is a little crevice, so it goes straight here and then this little crevice. So in that L shape fits into that crevice, and then you have an extremely solid feeling knife. This lockup feels extremely solid. There is no up and down lock rock at all, and there is no side to side blade play at all, and I think it's just fantastic. Now moving on, the actual lock bar itself is not too difficult to press down. I mean, it took some wearing in, but now the spring has softened up to a state where it feels comfortable to press it down, and it's not sharp, it's nicely rounded here, so that makes it a little bit even more comfortable. Next up, talking about the handles, Handles are great. This FRN, which is a fiber reinforced nylon, a lot of people don't like it. They like the metal feel. I don't really mind. You use FRN materials in paintball markers, in I know they use it in firearms, and there's no problem there. So this is great because number one, the molding is really good, because you have this really good texturing. So this texturing is bi-directional. So you have this side which goes in that direction, and then you have this side which goes in that direction, and that just makes it feel really secure in the hands. This knife, you feel extremely secure. Not only do you have the jimping and the pinch grip, and then you grip around the back like that, but you still have all these great all these great scales, this great scale texturing that really helps you keep the grip of the knife. Guys, I'm really sorry if I'm stuttering a lot. It is late at night, it is past midnight, I'm tired, but at the same time I need to shoot the video by today because I gotta keep up with my content schedule. Alright, so that's great. The only bad thing I have to say is that on the inside of these liners is actually a little sharp, okay? Because, well, they didn't round off these, so it's just a sharp edge. Never bothered me personally, but if you're the kind of person that bothers, just take some sandpaper and just sandpaper it. It's fine. Moving on to the clip. Now, this clip, nice and deep carry. This is the Spyderco wire clip, which I didn't like it in the beginning because I felt like it was a bit too stiff. But at the end of the day, this has become like one of my favorite clips on Spyderco. I wish they put this on more Spydercos. In fact, that's kind of stopping me from getting the original Para 3, because it uses the spoon clip, which makes it very, very shallow carry. This, on the other hand, makes it deep carry. It's not completely deep carry because of the lanyard hole in the back there. If not, they actually could have put this even further up, make it even more deep carry. But this is fine. This is acceptable to me. But one thing I really love about this clip is that it is placed on top of this, so you have this texture all along the handle of the knife, but the clip itself rides on this very soft, very smooth portion, which is the Spyderco logo, and it's the same on both sides. So your pants don't actually go against this rough material. It rubs against this much flatter, much smoother material, which helps protect your pockets a little bit. And I think that's just a great touch. I wish they did that in more Spyderco knives. I know they're doing it in the Para 3 lightweight, and actually the knife from Spyderco that I am most excited for is the Sage 5 lightweight. So I can't wait to finally see reviews on that, because I would get the Para 3 lightweight except for two reasons. The Para 3 lightweight doesn't have washers, and the Para 3 lightweight is just the blade is just too thick. But the Sage 5, it has liners on both sides, which makes it a little bit sturdier, and then you also have washers, bronze washers on both sides. I'm assuming, I've not seen the knife, and it just has a bit of a thinner blade compared to the Para 3 lightweight. But I digress. Moving back to this knife, and that's pretty much it with this knife. Let's move on to the conclusion. So what kind of person would you be for you to like this knife? Well, if you're the kind of person that doesn't have a lot of heavy duty cutting needs, if all you're doing is punching into bags of food and doing the odd slices here and there, this is going to be a great knife. If you're a person with smaller hands, this is going to be a great knife. If you're a person that really appreciates good ergonomic design, this is going to be a great knife for you. But if you're looking for a knife that's a little bit harder to use, that can hold up to a little bit more abuse, let's say you work in production, you're cutting up a lot of rope, you're cutting up a lot of cardboard, then you probably need a steel that's slightly harder, and you probably need a knife that's a little bit more heavy duty, just in case, you know, you want to make sure that there's a little bit of variance, a little bit of margin for error for you. Another thing, if you are a bigger guy or a bigger girl and then you have bigger hands, then this knife might be just a little bit too small for you. For me, to be honest, I'm like 80% loving this knife, 20% not liking this knife. I love this knife for what it is, for how useful it is. There's just two things about it that I don't like. Number one is how short the blade is. Okay, I think that it's not that I'm a heavy use knife kind of guy. It's just that when I use a knife, I tend to have a lot more slicing motion, so I tend to get caught up in the jimping a little bit. Okay, so which is why I think 2 inches of a cutting length is just a little bit too short for me. The next thing I don't like about this knife is the width of the knife. I tend to carry a big phone. I think everyone carries a big phone nowadays, and this just takes up a little bit too much width in your pocket. But other than that, this knife is great. The ergonomics, the sliciness, the handles, the lockup. And another thing that people don't give this credit for is the fidgetability of it. A lot of people think lockbacks are not that fidgetable, but this knife, I'll do a specific video talking about how to fidget with this knife. Alright, so that's the end of the video. Hope you guys liked the video, and hope you guys do check out my other videos on my channel, and do subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any experience with this knife, or if you have any other split runs. I know this comes in a lot of different handle materials and a lot of different blade steels as well. Alright, that is all. Stay ready, and this is your host, Mr. EDC.